All right, so good evening. Welcome to Civic Entrepreneur, an iPoli-Sci workshop. My name is Dr. Josh Franco, Assistant Professor of Political Science at Cuyamaca College in San Diego County, California. Let's jump right in. So Civic Entrepreneur is a new workshop series that focuses on civic entrepreneurship, grassroots organizing, and public policy with diversity, inclusion, and equity at its core. We virtually journey throughout California and beyond and see how civic entrepreneurship and its themes are happening in real life. This workshop's on Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7 p.m. On Zoom through the end of September. So this is our schedule for the fall. We had no workshop in the first week of the semester, and then we had workshops 1, 2, and 3, overview about Carol Tomlinson Kesey and about Carol Whiteside. And today we'll be talking about D'Artagnan Scorza. Let's jump to that. So workshop number 4, Los Angeles County and D'Artagnan Scorza. And here's a picture of Los Angeles County proper, as you can see here. This is the most populous county in the country with tens of millions of people. And it's a part of the greater Los Angeles Basin area. So the 6 themes that we focus on with civic entrepreneurship are the following. So individual and community, creating common purpose, trust and accountability, building webs of responsibility, economy and society, strengthening this vital cycle, people in place, making that creative connection, change and continuity, creating vigilance and renewal, and lastly, idealism and pragmatism, building resilience of place. So our learning objectives with this workshop are the following. Is first, by the end of this workshop, you'll be able to identify where Los Angeles County is located. Secondly, is describe D'Artagnan Scorza, Ph.D. And lastly, explain how DART relates to at least one of the 6 civic entrepreneurship topics. So where is Los Angeles County? So we saw a moment ago, like a zoomed in of Los Angeles proper. And this is to give you some broader context. So Los Angeles County is here in the southern part of the state. Closest major cities would be San Diego and Bakersfield. And then its typical sister city of California is the San Francisco Bay Area. And then obviously here's the state capital in the north. So Los Angeles County is tucked right away in here. Very diverse demographically, racially, ethnically, linguistically, geographically. It has parts of the high desert here, has the coast hanging out here, has a mountain range running through it, has some flatlands, some hills, major international airports, or at least one major international airport, major highways, the works. Los Angeles County has it all, and a lot of it. So who's D'Artagnan Scorza? Well, Dr. Scorza is the inaugural executive director of the Racial Equity for Los Angeles County, overseeing the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiative, or ARDI, and is working to expand the county's work on anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. He's a native of Inglewood, California, and he's also a lecturer at UCLA Fielding School of Public Health. He also works with students to dig into how community organizations target health problems and change health policy. Now, I always like to share about DART because him and I go way back. You're talking like 15 years, 16 years, 15 years. So I've known DART for 15 years. Had a many conversation with him when I was a student at UC Merced, and when he was a student at UCLA's PhD education program, and when he was student regent, I then worked for the Lieutenant Governor of California, John Garamendi. And so that's where DART and I began where we crossed our paths. So as I was finishing up my time at UC Merced, I went to go work or intern in the state capitol through the UC Sacramento program for the Lieutenant Governor, John Garamendi. And the Lieutenant Governor, by virtue of their position, they also serve on the Board of Regents. So John Garamendi was an active regent. And in that space, as his policy analyst, I would read the board books. I would reach out and talk with the staff at UC Office of the President. I'd reach out and talk to constituents and stakeholder groups like the labor unions, the student organizations, and the like. And so one of the leaders I worked with was D'Artagnan. And at that time, he was UC student regent. And so he was the voice of the students on this 26 plus member board that governs the 10 campuses of the UC plus its national laboratories, which is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. And so Dart was the voice on that. And him and I reached out to him right away. We had built a rapport, and then just maintained our contact through the lieutenant governor's time on the regents, and then after, we kept in touch over the years. So Dart and I go way back, and I just always have appreciated his leadership. So this is where we first met. And then as Dart was finishing up his PhD and looking to his future, one thing he's organized was the Social Justice Learning Institute. And they focus on empowering through education, creating thriving communities, and changing systems. And let me go ahead and open up their website for us. So I remember when Dart was thinking about doing this or planning it out, and him and I talked about it. I said, dude, go for it, man. Like, make it happen. Do what you got to do. Bring your knowledge, your expertise, your wealth to this process of engaging the community and addressing the challenges that you've experienced and that you see others experience as well. So let me go ahead and open up their mission. So they're an organization dedicated to improving education, health, and the well-being of youth and communities of color by empowering them to enact social change through research, training, and community mobilization. For example, some of their impacts include building 122 gardens in South LA, having 1.5 million pounds of produce distributed since 2020, and serving 45 food justice partners. Their board includes these individuals, all with stellar backgrounds and experiences and commitments to social justice and facilitating that change. And then here's their board of advisors. The one I know closely is Ben Allen, who was also student regent prior to Dart, and who I worked with when I was a student body president at UC Merced. So they've just done amazing work over the years. And you can see here, for example, in changing systems, their idea is to build capacity, partner with others, and advocate for the changes in policy that need to be done. So here's just some of their efforts: Uplift Inglewood Coalition, Brothers, Sons, Selves Coalition, and the Los Angeles Youth Uprising organization. And it's just amazing how this went from like an idea, like a conversation, to it's getting it off the ground and talking with Dart about it, and then seeing it over the years just grow into this stellar group that's now been around for over a decade. So seeing a friend find a way to channel their purpose was really awesome. And I just completely have been all amazed by his work. So next up is like, so how does Dart, right, relate to the CEE theme? So a couple of things immediately come to mind. Like, he created this common purpose, right? The Social Justice Leadership Institute really put together all his skill sets and knowledge base, and situated it around the idea that in order to make change in a community, it's not about parachuting in and doing everything for everyone. It's about being a part, being integrated, and helping people see their individual strengths, recognize the needs of the community, and then working on that common purpose to achieve your goals. Next, on trust and accountability. When Dart was putting this together, I remember him talking with Ben about it, or Ben Allen. And what was really cool was hearing them like navigate this like space, like, okay, who do we need to talk to? What's going on? What's happening? This is who you should connect with. Here's some contacts. And it isn't just about like the networking purpose, right? It's about finding people you can trust, finding people who will work with you to achieve your goals, but also hold you accountable, either directly through their words or through their actions, or indirectly through the questions they ask you and the advice that they give you, and really building that web of responsibility that comes with starting a new organization and seeing it through to maturity. And then the last thing point out is the idealism and pragmatism. So when Dart was a UC regent, we would talk at the time. This was 2007 to 2008, and this was the doldrums of the Great Recession. and basically the gutting of higher education in California. And so with D'Art's leadership, and with Ben's leadership, and with the leadership of CSU student leaders and community college student leaders, we organize what's called Students for California's Future. And in talking with Ben and with D'Art, Ben had his perspective about what could be done. And then in talking with D'Art, he, I would say, was the more pragmatic in saying, like, okay, there's these broad, big ideas, right? But how do we put that into action, right? How do we make that real? How do we organize others? How do we follow through on this idea that we need to invest in California's future? So it wasn't just about saying we need to make the argument that the state of California should give money or provide money, or to say if the little money we have, it should go to the future. D'Art was also about operationalizing that. So one thing he did when he was on the Regents was work through that organization, work through that that bureaucracy to demand greater accountability, better reporting on a range of data, and basically merge or marry this idea of idealism and pragmatism to say, this is how we put it into action. This is how we make it real. And that's just one of the many things that he did in the years, over the years that we've worked together. So D'Art's leadership has continued. As I read up top, he's the new executive director, and I go ahead and want to pull up that webpage, and then we'll hear a short message from D'Art. So he's the inaugural executive director. This is a major deal. So Los Angeles County, being the largest county in the country, the most populous county in the country, I should say, for them to institutionalize a position that's focused exclusively on RD, or anti-racism, diversity, and inclusion, it really brings to light the emphasis. And so when they're out there looking for folks, when I heard that D'Art got the position, I was like, yeah. I was like, who better, right? Someone who's made change in his range of roles and experiences, and ready to lead the charge at the highest of levels. So let's go ahead and listen to. Actually, I'll go ahead and have this read to us. I wish I had D'Art's voice. So next time I'm gonna make sure I'm like, hey, can you re-record this? So he can read it to us.
As the inaugural
And let me go to make sure I change my audio settings to the correct one. Okay.
Executive Director of Racial Equity for Los Angeles County, I am honored to lead the Anti-Racism, Diversity and Inclusion (ARDI) initiative. The Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, in July 2020, had the courageous vision to establish an anti-racist county policy agenda, which included founding ARDI and tasking the executive director to develop and implement a countywide strategic plan to address the elimination of structural racism and bias in the county. The board boldly affirmed that racism and other forms of discrimination against Black people has reached crisis proportions and is a matter of public health that must be addressed. Additionally, Native, Latino/A, immigrant, LGBTQIAP, and many other communities have experienced the perilous effects of institutional racism, erasure, and other forms of oppression. From this understanding, we must act swiftly to ensure an end to the biases, policies, and practices inhibiting opportunity and denying communities the right to determine their futures. This work is at once timely and long overdue. The civil unrest across the nation, reignited in the summer of 2020, was spurred by more than just 400 years of race-based oppression. Moreover, the killing of unarmed men and women by law enforcement, people like Ezell Ford, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Atashiana Jefferson, Jacob Blake, and Andres Guardado, amongst many others, has reminded us of the many deep-rooted social injustices in our society. Although we must reckon with the need to reimagine public safety and deal with the inequities exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic, I remain deeply hopeful. In the words of Bell Hooks, my hope emerges from those places of struggle where I witness individuals positively transforming their lives and the world around them. ORDI's efforts will enhance collaboration, channel momentum, and move the county toward a unified strategic approach that involves many stakeholders such as county departments, community-based organizations, and philanthropy working alongside local, state, and federal agencies. It is our responsibility to create and advance an anti-racist agenda in order to enhance the lives of the children, families, and communities we serve. Success will be reflected in the elimination of long-term systemic barriers that have made sure that large portions of the Black community, and other communities of color, live within the confines of concentrated disadvantage, depriving communities of the opportunity to achieve self-determination and the opportunity to thrive. We all deserve to live our best lives.
And so those are the words of D'Art. as he entered and began this new role. Let's go ahead and listen to some comments from Dart. Let me pull it up here. So here's his Twitter feed. That's his family. And then let's go ahead and play that here. Okay.
Let me just remind you that you're not on mute, at least not in real life. I hope each time you hear that phrase, you remember that you have an important voice that needs to be heard, loud and clear. You see, for many communities, the normal of our pre-pandemic lives was, well, not okay. We were hurting as individuals, as communities, and as a society. And this past year has highlighted major issues that we must deal with and recognize that the old normal we've been used to is an abnormal that we must all work together to change. We cannot and we must not accept or go back to the way things were. In a forge, steel is shaped. And in the fires of history, you have been shaped. You are a class shaped by the fires of this past year and equipped and ready to help us heal as a society and as individuals. You're ready to create the world you want to see. You can do it, Bruins. I know you can. We may have had different journeys this year. And while the pandemic may have pointed out ways we are different and the inequities that exist in our society, we still got through this together. You are the class of transformation. You are the class of justice, and you are the class of hope. You are the UCLA class of 2021. Congratulations and go Bruins.
So that's Dart, and it's just awesome. So with that, I appreciate you taking the time to listen in. We'll go ahead and end there and have our discussion. So with that, take care and have a great evening.